has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall, coast to coast.
All right, Bill Bender's back with us from the Sporting News to talk college football. I want to start with a couple things we just talked about, and it was Cam Ward and the performance he put on against Duke, and the kid Rourke from Indiana, what he did to Michigan State. I mean, these are they're the top two scoring teams in the country, and they both lived up to it on Saturday. Indiana was down 10, and then they just crushed Michigan State. I mean, like a bug. And then Miami's second half. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana, first off, Curtis Rourke, if he had a Michigan helmet on, he would be in the Heisman conversation. I don't know if he's a first-round talent at quarterback. I think he's definitely a day two guy. It's particularly painful because he's from my alma mater, Ohio University, but I'm happy for him. And that team's got a chance to shine here against Michigan this week. And Cam Ward probably should be higher on the Heisman list, given what he's doing for Miami. They've had lesser quarterbacks win the Heisman. The way that he's putting up the numbers, 5 TDs last week, the big play offense is real. Scott, I think they got a pretty straight shot to Charlotte as long as they take care of business this weekend. That's a really good Miami football team that I think is getting underplayed a little bit because of a couple close games.
Do you think he's better than Dylan Gabriel? Because I do.
Yes, he's less efficient, but that's not what they're not asking Cam Ward to do what Dylan Gabriel is asked to do at Oregon, where it's a fast-paced, high-percentage pass. How many chances do you think Dylan Gabriel throws in tight windows compared to Cam Ward? And Cam Ward throws the deep ball as well as anybody in college football. So if I'm given the two, now Cam Ward does make more mistakes than Dylan Gabriel, but it's different. Like I said, different types of offense, different types of play calls. And again, Cam Ward is carrying Miami, this brand, to a potential college football playoff berth. I actually think it's getting undersold a little bit.
So what did you think of Georgia's win over Florida in Jacksonville?
Ugly in spots. They've got to stop turning the football over. And now you've got a situation where Carson Beck has 3 games with at least 3 interceptions, and that will catch them, if not now, in the playoffs. Imagine if we were talking about an NFL quarterback like a Joe Burrow or a Lamar Jackson, Jordan Love, where they had 3 games with 3 interceptions. What would we say? In the postseason, that's going to cost them. And that's why Josh Allen is having the year that he's having. So I'll circle all the way back to Georgia and say, if they turn the football over and can't lean on the running game this weekend against Ole Miss, they could run into some real problems because the other quarterback, Jackson Dart, is the most efficient passer in the SEC.
I mean, what he did on Saturday was crazy.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of momentum all of a sudden. They can't afford to lose. You're seeing a lot of talk that this is elimination weekend. You can't have 3 losses. I'm not 100% sure that a 3-loss team won't make the playoff just because the losses are piling up in these conferences. But if you're Ole Miss, this is the game that you stand on. You've got to beat Georgia at home. You need Jackson Dart to play well. You need the defense to come through. Lane Kiffin has had so many opportunities to do this. There is a danger, though, with Kirby Smart and how they didn't particularly play well against Florida. That means they're probably going to come in focused, especially on the defensive side of the ball when they go to Oxford this week. I still like Georgia to win the game, but in a close one.
You know, I watched Texas Tech, and I thought it was a great game in Ames, and they won that game against Campbell's Iowa State team, and I just thought it was really impressive. That last drive to win the game, that kid did a hell of a job for Texas Tech, getting them down the field and into the end zone. That's a huge upset.
Yeah, and they've got a chance to do it again this week because Colorado coming in. Colorado is going to be ranked in the top 25. You're hearing whispers about whether or not Colorado can actually make the college football playoff. They obviously have one Heisman candidate in Travis Hunter. I actually think Shedeur Sanders should be the second one. So what are we doing with Texas Tech? Baron Morton, 16 touchdowns, 1 interception at home. You know things get crazy in Lubbock, Scott. That's a potential upset. This is the one I think Colorado has to have if they want to get to 10-2 and keep all that momentum rolling. And that's not an easy task. Like you said, Texas Tech coming off that big win at Iowa State.
I mean, they looked legit to me. And now they got this game at home against Colorado. That's a brutal road game for the Buffs. No doubt about it. You might be right. What did you think of Vandy again? And it's been, forever since they beat, Alabama and Auburn in the same year, and they got it done at Jordan-Hare.
Yeah, they did. And another sign that Auburn's really struggling. But if you would have told me that, we have this great Saturday, right? We have Georgia, Ole Miss, we have Alabama, LSU, and yet South Carolina, Vanderbilt could be one of those games that we would really enjoy watching this weekend. That's normally an afterthought game. Lenore Sellers is playing great. Diego Pavia, only a few interceptions. They just don't turn the ball over. They play so efficient on the offensive side. I think the Commodores are going to pull an upset here, but they've got to hold back this South Carolina pass rush. Those guys are awesome at getting to the quarterback, and I think it's going to be a wildly entertaining game between those two SEC schools.
Yeah, and you mentioned South Carolina. That was a nice performance at Bryce Williams in Columbia on Saturday night against A&M. They really cooled them off.
It did, and I thought Texas A&M, the balloon popped when Le'Veon Moss went out. Their big running back, physical guy, and all of a sudden he goes down. Marcel Reed wasn't quite the same. I've been to games at South Carolina where it can unravel. Williams-Brice, they showed the crowd. They get into those night games there, and Shane Beamer has really done a nice job as a road or a home underdog. I think now he's 6-6 against the spread at home as an underdog. So they make it a tough place to play even when they get beat, and that's 5 straight up wins for him. So, yeah, I think Texas A&M, their backs are against the wall a little bit. I'm still looking forward to when they play Texas at the end of the year, but they have to get there with that 9-2 record to have a chance.
Did you see the people leaving Death Valley as Louisville was spanking Clemson? All the fans were walking out.
That was probably the most stunning result to me over the weekend, believe it or not. And it's not just that Clemson lost, it was how they lost. Louisville running the football over 7 yards per carry. Tyler Schaub getting whatever he wanted. The Clemson offense really didn't have a comeback. At halftime, I still thought, okay, bad start, they'll adjust and get a win. And now Clemson does not control its own destiny in the ACC race. I think we're headed for an ACC championship game. Looking at the schedule, it will probably be Miami and SMU, which the 80s kid in me loves that. Absolutely loves that. It's fascinating. But I'm not sure that conference is going to get 2 bids now because the committee will probably have SMU around 15.
I wasn't surprised that they beat Pitt. I had SMU in that game, and at Gerald Ford in Dallas, they're tough.
Yes, and Kevin Jennings playing very well. They take advantage of turnovers. They took it to Pitt. And I absolutely believe if you look at their schedule, absent an upset, they're going to be in the ACC championship game, which to me is wild in year one. Great run by the Mustangs so far.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Real quick, is Stoops in trouble at Kentucky? They pay him so much money and he doesn't win.
They've got to get a quarterback and develop their own and bring him in. I think he does a nice job recruiting, but that quarterback roulette didn't work this year, and they've had some tough losses. They can compete, but they need to be better.
All right, Bill Bender, my man. Thank you, brother. Great stuff.
Hey, thank you.
Great job.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Are you okay with him moving to the head of the class at the Heisman with those two games? Because he wasn't even in the discussion before those two games.
This is a big opportunity for Dylan if he wants to continue to make his case for the Heisman Trophy, and I think he's shown that. What is he, a sixth-year player who's going to probably end up setting most of the passing marks because he's been around for so long? So why not also throw a Heisman Trophy in the mix?
Ferrall Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Yeah, I was talking to Bill about it, Mike. That Texas Tech team showed up for the Iowa State game. I thought it was a great game. I was into that game. It was like one of the best games I saw on Saturday. That was really tight, close game. Came down to the wire, and they got it done.
They got it done. Huge performance by Texas Tech on the road as they give Iowa State their first loss of the season, 23-22. The other upset in the Big 12 was Houston beating Kansas State 24-19. So the Big 12 now, Scotty, BYU is undefeated in altogether, 8-0 overall, 5-0 in the conference. Iowa State, one conference loss. Colorado, one conference loss. Kansas State, Texas Tech, Cincinnati, Arizona State, all with two conference losses. So still very wide open with a few weeks left in terms of who's going to play in that Big 12 title game.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a great conference. I couldn't believe Houston won that game, but we were on the points. We thought it was too many points to play them there, and they covered. They won the game outright. That was crazy. And, seeing A&M get drubbed like that, another game, I thought, it would be better, and they really got dominated by the Gamecocks. I mean, it was ugly.
Completely gutless. They got down, tied the game at 20 before the half, and then gave up 24 points in the second half and didn't score. Awful job by Texas A&M. You and Bill were just talking about Clemson. That was very surprising to me that they lost that game in Louisville. And like he said, that puts the ACC title game back wide open for a lot of teams. Miami, of course, is undefeated in conference play. SMU now has themselves possibly on track to be in that title game. So a lot to be decided. Clemson and Pitt have one loss in conference. Of course, SMU beat Pitt, Scotty. I'll jump ahead to that and we'll continue on. I was surprised. I know we thought it was kind of a weird line with SMU being just over a touchdown favorite, but they smashed Pitt in that game down in Dallas. Absolutely smashed them.
I mean, Pitt's played great. That's a tough place to play. That stadium's rocking. It's in Dallas. You go down there. They got a good team. Now they have a chance to play for the ACC title against Miami. Who would have thought that? I was on SMU in that game, and I like Pitt, but I bet on SMU because they're tough, and they can play at home with anybody, and they gave Pitt all kinds of problems.
They certainly did. Ole Miss crushed Arkansas 63-31. Jackson Dart sent school records, 515 passing yards and 6 tutties in that game against the Razorbacks. Army and Air Force, another under. Air Force covered, though, actually, 20-3. I believe that was Air Force's first cover of the season. That was the first game that Air Force had covered all year long. Minnesota beat Illinois. They were, of course, a slight favorite on the road. Vandy beat Auburn. First time Vandy has beat Auburn and Alabama in the same season since 1955. What a season for Vandy with all these wins. Clark Leah finally, I guess, maybe turning things around in Nashville for the Commodores. Huge season for them. Tennessee beat Kentucky by 10. UNC beat Florida State. Mike Norvell 1-8 now this year with the Seminoles. What happened there? Jeez.
I mean,
how did that
really
train get so
it's
far off the track?
It really is unbelievable. The one that caught me off guard was Illinois at home in Champaign, that they got beat. That's a big win for Minnesota against a ranked team, and they got it done on the road. That surprised me, and I know a lot of people lost money with Army.
Oh, a lot of people lost money with Army, no doubt. That was, of course, 3 tutties they were laying in that game, and it was kind of what Service Academy games usually are. Wasn't a lot of scoring, and if there was a fat number, you had to gobble it up. Genty had 180 and 2 touchdowns Friday night in Boise's win, which we discussed before. Did you see, I know we talked about the fights, the police beating up the people at the Georgia-Florida game. How about the UL Monroe coach, the assistant that went bonkers on the kid over on the sideline? The school says that the meltdown was, quote, unacceptable. Unacceptable? I mean, how does they fire him yet? I mean, what? Unacceptable. I mean, he really gave that kid the business on the sideline. Jeez.
I mean, it was scary watching him flip out on a kid. And I think they need to do something about it. I mean, saying it's unacceptable is one thing, and then doing something about it is another. That guy shouldn't be anywhere on that sideline for a couple weeks, at least. And then, some people would think that he should be gone. I mean, he lost his mind on that kid, and he's not even the head coach. Like, what are you doing, bro? Like, you're losing it over here. And, you can't be roughing up players, right? Like, what are you doing? You're pulling a Woody Hayes. Like, I thought he was going to kill him. Like, what's next? I wouldn't trust that coach anymore if I were playing there.
I would not either. Top 25. Again, this is all about to end tomorrow night because the first college football playoff ranking is going to come out tomorrow night, which will reveal the 12 teams in the playoff. And, of course, that's going to go on for a few weeks before we get the actual 12. Oregon's 1 in the AP with Georgia, Ohio State, Miami, and Texas rounding out the top 5. Indiana into the top 10 at number 8, followed by BYU and Notre Dame. There is the rest of it down there. I'll say this to you. I've started to see some people's predictions for the first college football playoff rankings tomorrow night. Almost everyone I've seen has Indiana, of course, in right now, and there's a long way to go. And I mentioned a matchup to you. I saw several prognosticators say that it would be Notre Dame against Penn State in South Bend right now in a first-round matchup, potentially, and they would have Notre Dame as a half-point favorite over Penn State at home.
I think Penn State can give Notre Dame problems. I think it's a matchup thing for me with that particular game. This isn't Ohio State they're playing. I think they're on a relatively even plane with Notre Dame, and I think they can give them fits. I think they could beat Notre Dame, but I've never seen Indiana ranked 8th in my life in football.
it's a new era in CFP to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of a week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was Lincoln! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Tatum has fixed that hitch. He now shoots it at the top of his jump. His release is really pure. And right now he's shooting it at 49% from three. Now, I'm not saying he's going to shoot at 49% from three for the season. But if he's at 42, 43%, Lord have mercy, look out below. Jason Tatum, right now, my number 6 player in the NBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Are you okay with him moving to the head of the class at the Heisman with those two games? Because he wasn't even in the discussion before those two games.
This is a big opportunity for Dylan if he wants to continue to make his case for the Heisman Trophy, and I think he's shown that. I mean, what is he, a 6th-tier player who's going to probably end up setting most of the passing marks because he's been around for so long? So why not also throw a Heisman Trophy in the mix?
Ferrall Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
I really can't believe that it was ink-stained red that Embiid shoved. He's a cool dude. You know he's a great guy, and I don't know. Yeah. I think Embiid's losing it in Philly. I think the whole thing, the media and the fans have gotten to Embiid.
Well, look, and that press conference that you were talking about earlier happened late Friday afternoon as we were finishing up Coast to Coast, where he dropped like 15 F-bombs talking about, I've done enough for this Ferrall and City, and he was really referencing Marcus's column because Marcus took him to task. Like, why aren't you playing? Like, you should be, like, if you don't have an injury, why aren't you out there giving it your all for this city? And Embiid didn't like that, and he also, Marcus mentioned a few things about Embiid's brother who passed away and other things. And I think that's the stuff that really got Joel Embiid upset. And I guess he saw him on Saturday in the locker room after the game or before the game, whatever it was. And I guess he had some things to say to him, Scotty. But he's still not playing. I know that. We still don't see him out on the floor.
What does his brother have to do with it? Why did he write about that?
I did not read the entire article, so for me to get into it, I would have to go and read the entire thing. But he referenced his brother with something. That's why he got upset, because he brought his brother into it somehow.
I mean, honestly, I don't really get that. I didn't read it, so I don't know. But just hearing that makes me wonder, why would you bring that up? And then. I'll say this, that he signed a deal. He just signed a deal, and he's stuck in Philly. He's not going to start whining now and demand a trade, is he? Because he just signed to stay there, and it's a ton of money. And it sounds to me like he's starting to hate it in Philly, because you don't say those things and really in Philly get away with it. I mean, it's no different than Sirianni. They're going to turn on this guy because he said, I've done enough for this effing city and, blah, blah, blah. All I know is this. He is injured. This talk about, why aren't you playing makes no sense to me. I understand why people think that he's not injured because he played in the Olympics and he was fine, right? For the most part, he was fine. But the reality is I mean, look at him. He's got a giant steel brace on his knee. He's obviously got lingering scar tissue, pain, tendonitis, whatever it is in that knee from that scope last season that has, reared its ugly head. Now, you have to understand, when you play ball a lot, these injuries can, pop up out of nowhere. One day you're fine, the next day you're not. Like, I was wearing a knee brace for, the last 6 months, and then it, remember I thought I tore my meniscus. I only hyperextended it and sprained it, and now I'm off of the knee brace, and I'm playing without it. And I never thought I'd have that day that I could just play again without a knee brace on. But this guy's wearing a knee brace. What do you think? He's doing it for his health? You think he wants to wear that giant contraption on his knee? I guarantee he doesn't. So he's got to do what's best for his body. I understand why everyone's so mad. But, I mean, you're 6-7 games into the season. Everybody needs to have a sandwich. Chill out.
Yeah. I have the paragraph that I guess got him upset. This is from Marcus Hayes. Joel Embiid consistently points to the birth of his son Arthur as the major inflection point in his basketball career. He often says that he wants to be great to leave a legacy for the boy, named after his little brother, who tragically died in an automobile accident when Embiid was in his first year as a Sixer. Well, in order to be great at your job, you first have to show up for work. That's what Marcus wrote in his column, and that's what I guess upset that paragraph there upset Embiid, that he even mentioned his son and his brother in the column. He didn't like that.
And you know what? I agree with him. I think it's out of bounds, and I think that I think Marcus is a great writer and a great guy. I really do. I like him a lot, but I think he's wrong about this. And the guy's got a problem with his knee, and he's been doing 5-on-5s. He's gonna play. He's gonna come back. They play 82 effing games. They play so long it gets monotonous. It's so nauseating how many games they play. So who cares about the first 7 or 8 games? The guy's injured. It is what it is. You don't like it? Go eat a bowl of popcorn or something and have a beer. Quit worrying about it. It's not your problem.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Tatum has fixed that hitch. He now shoots it at the top of his jump. His release is really pure. And right now he's shooting it at 49% from 3. Now, I'm not saying he's going to shoot at 49% from 3 for the season. But if he's at 42, 43%, Lord have mercy, look out below. Jason Tatum, right now, my number 6 player in the NBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Are you okay with him moving to the head of the class of the Heisman with those 2 games? Because he wasn't even in the discussion before those 2 games.
This is a big opportunity for Dylan if he wants to continue to make his case for the Heisman Trophy, and I think he's shown that. What is he, a 6th-tier player who's going to probably end up setting most of the passing marks because he's been around for so long? So why not also throw a Heisman Trophy in the mix?
Ferrall, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
So I think they're mad as well because he said he's not going to play back-to-backs. But the reality is he's got knee issues. And if he's going to play back-to-backs, it's only going to get worse. And there are a lot of guys that don't play back-to-backs that have, various injuries and whatever. I think he wants to play. I think he loves playing. I think he realizes he's enormous. And, this guy is never not going to have problems with those knees. It's only going to get worse every year as he gets older. Knees don't just dramatically turn around and get better. With the wear and tear that an NBA season puts on the knees, particularly for a guy that's 7 foot, 300 pounds. I mean, the guy's a monster. And you know what? I mean, he even said to this guy, Hayes, you say one more word about my kid, and I'm going to F you up, and I'm going to live with the consequences. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to pay the price. And that's fine, because I'm going to do it. And you know what? You better watch your step with that guy, because I am telling you, he is a gigantic menace. He will F that dude up badly. I mean, my man's like a writer. He just sits around. He's a writer. He's just a media guy. He'll get his ass beat. I mean, honestly, you do not want to mess with this dude. He is enormous and powerful and strong. Here's another thing, and I love Marcus. Trust me, he's been on my show 5 million times. He's a great guy and a great writer. You should watch his step with this dude. Pick a better person to get in a fight with. That guy will F you up. Secondly, who cares about him not playing? Because you got Paul George coming back tonight. So, honestly, have a drink. Relax.
Yeah, it's all good.
What's the problem?
PG-13. He's finally playing. He's back in the mix tonight. They're in Phoenix. We'll give you the numbers in a moment. Paul George will be in there. Spurs coach Greg Popovich suffered a health issue before Saturday night's game. Assistant Mitch Johnson will be the interim coach for an indefinite period. So hopefully they have not said specifically what the health issue was with Popovich, but to say indefinite period means it ain't going to be tomorrow. It ain't going to be next week. It sounds like it's going to be a while, Scotty. There's going to be no Popovich on the Spurs sideline for them. Brandon Podzinski of the Warriors leads the NBA. He's plus 87 so far this season. Grant Williams was ejected Friday night in the Hornets-Celtics game. Did you see him truck Jason Tatum in that game? That was violent with Grant Williams. And they used to be teammates, of course, on the Celtics. And he did business.
It was obviously blatant. He went after him. He just literally trucked him. He veered over and trucked him. And I got to say, Podziemski is a really good player. And you get this guy going, and you get Hield going. And Curry's been out a little bit, right, with injured ankle, whatever it is. And you get those three guys going, and, they have other guys that can play. And I think it's clear why they are where they are right now. They're winning, and they look tough. Kerr's got a deep bench and a lot of talent. Again, I don't think they're championship level, but they're a playoff team. To me, they look like a playoff team with their depth and the guys that can fill it up. And that Podziemski, there's been a lot of teams that have tried to pry him from the Dubs. And they realize what they have in him, and they haven't dealt with anybody. They're keeping him for the time being, and he's turning into a hell of a player.
He certainly is. And finally, before we get to tonight's games, a new video has led the NBA to reopen their investigation into Jackson Hayes of the Lakers' domestic violence incident. Of course, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. Let's just put it that way, Jackson Hayes. He's not. It's not going to go well for him with the new video, ring camera video that surfaced of him and his girlfriend. So not good news for Jackson Hayes moving forward. All right, everybody is playing tonight in the NBA. NBA does this now. Everyone plays tonight because everyone's off tomorrow for Election Day throughout the league. So there's no NBA games tomorrow. Get yourself involved tonight, Scotty, with all of the action. Why don't we start with the Bucks and Cleveland, as they will get together tonight at the Q. Right now, didn't they play the other night, Sky? Didn't they play on Saturday, these two? The Bucks and Cleveland?
By one.
Yes.
They beat them by one.
That's right. 114-113 on Saturday night. That's right. They did play. Right, and they took the line off for this game. So I don't know if somebody's out or if there was just a late scratch for somebody, but they just took the line off. Cleveland -6.5 is what I see now being put back up. Cleveland -6.5 for tonight.
Yeah, I see even 7, and I think that that's relatively for the Bucs tonight. I think Cleveland's been great. They're undefeated, and I think people are starting to jump on them and bet on them and everything else. Tonight will be a little different. They won that game by a point the other night, and I think the Bucs have looked terrible, and they better wake up or they're going to be left behind. This season's turning into a disaster.
Well, the reason why this thing's blown up to 7 now is Giannis is out tonight. There is no Giannis for the Bucs. Right abductor strain. That is why it went off for a moment. Now back to 7. No Giannis for the Bucs. So that's not going to help them trying to get back on track. Not having him in the lineup.
Then I'm not interested in that. I'm not betting that. Without him, and you know what? They don't win with him. And and Dame time, what a disaster that's turned into. It's him every night shooting and scoring and putting up his number. He's one of these guys that goes out and gets his. But if you've noticed, he doesn't care about winning. I honestly don't believe for 1 minute he cares about winning. I really don't. No. I think he cares about his numbers. And he's been there, and they've never done anything with him. Have you noticed that? He's been in Milwaukee now. This is the second year, and they're getting worse. And it really is amazing that they have this guy, and they don't win. So it's like Dame and Giannis, and you don't win. I mean, what is going on? How do they not win games with these two stars?
And they're 1-5 right now. And remember this, they were 30-12 when they fired that guy last year. I don't even remember his name. The guy that they fired, who they brought in to be the head coach. Since Doc has been there, it has been a disaster in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Absolute disaster since Doc took over for that job. All right, we got a lot of games tonight. Let's go. Warriors are in D.C. against the Wizards tonight. Dubs -10 and a hook on the road with the 232.5.
I think that number's a little fat. I like the Dubs to win, but I don't think they covered a 10.
Lakers are in Detroit against the Pistons, continuing their East Coast trip. They're 6.5-point road favorites, 225.5.
I think it's the Lakers. I don't see how Detroit's going to deal with Davis and LeBron. They're too much, and everybody else as well. I'll lay it.
Hawks have the Celtics in Atlanta tonight. Celtics -10.5 on the road, 231.5.
I mean, the Hawks were losing. They lost 4 in a row. Then they won a game. I think the Celtics wiped them out tonight.
The Nets and the Grizzlies getting together tonight. Remember, the Nets beat them in Memphis last week. Tonight they're in Brooklyn. Memphis -4.5 with a 223.5.
Yeah, I like this Cam Thomas guy. He can really score, but I think Ja and the Grizzlies will beat him. I really do. I'll lay it.
Kings are in Miami against the Heat. Kings -1.5 on the road, 224.5.
I like Miami at home tonight.
Utah is in Chicago. Bulls -8.5 with a 228.5.
I like Chicago here at home, and this team's decent. They're not that bad, right? And at home, I think the Jazz suck, and they're going to get whacked.
All right, I've got just a few more games NBA-wise, and then I have college games for tonight. Tons of college basketball games, including Gonzaga against Baylor. Late night, 11:30 East tip. Look out.
College rack.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking, but he had that program was already going there.
Only on SportsGrid.
Tatum has fixed that hitch. He now shoots it at the top of his jump, his release is really pure. And right now he's shooting it at 49% from three. Now, I'm not saying he's going to shoot at 49% from three for the season. But if he's at 42, 43%, Lord have mercy, look out below. Jason Tatum, right now, my number 6 player in the NBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in the set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Are you okay with him moving to the head of the class of the Heisman with those two games? Because he wasn't even in the discussion before those two games.
This is a big opportunity for Dylan if he wants to continue to make his case for the Heisman Trophy, and I think he's shown that. You know, I mean, what is he, a sixth-tier player who's going to probably end up setting most of the passing marks because he's been around for so long? So why not also throw a Heisman Trophy in the mix?
Ferrall Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
So, good one tonight at H-Town at the Toyota Center with the Knicks and young Rockets.
Indeed, and the Knicks are 1.5-point favorites on the road in Houston. Low total, 217.5.
Man, this team is tough. This team, I like this team. I think the Rockets are fun, right? I think the Knicks are better than them. I think they're more experienced, and I think it's going to be a really hard game. I don't think they'll cover. I think they might win and not cover. The Knicks.
It's tough. Hornets are in Minnesota against the Timberwolves. -9.5 for the T-Wolves at home, 226.5.
Yeah, I think they'll get healthy tonight against Charlotte. I really do. I like the T-Wolves. They'll finally look good tonight.
Magic, obviously a lot different now that they don't have Banchero in the lineup or an OKC against the Thunder. 12.5, the big number here, 217.5 total.
I mean, this team is a behemoth. I think they're dangerous. They can screw with anybody every night. It doesn't matter. You don't have Banchero. I got to lean Thunder here. I know Franz can play and keep him in the game, but I think in the second half, the Thunder finish him off.
Portland is in New Orleans against the Pelicans. Pelicans -2.5, 219.5.
Yeah, I got to go Pelicans in New Orleans here.
Pacers are in Dallas. Mavs -5.5, big total, 236.5.
You know, you saw Luka, whatever, on Sunday. I mean, what do you have, 32? He just fills it up. I think they're the play at home and lay it. They got three guys that score at will, and I love their bigs. They really are physical. This is a good team, Dallas. They mean business.
Toronto is in Denver. Remember, they played a wild game in Toronto last week that the Nuggets won in overtime. Nuggets are -10.5 tonight, 231.5.
You know, I would lean Denver here at ball. I think they're, starting to, if you will, find themselves. They're playing better. They're at home. I think the Raptors on the road are less appealing to me.
The Sixers will get Paul George in the lineup for the first time tonight, and they'll get 7.5 points in Phoenix against the Suns.
He hasn't played, so, I wonder if he's going to go out and drop 30? I think the Suns are playing really good ball right now. I hate that number, but it's worth a risk, if you will, with the Suns. I think they can handle. Philly just hasn't played well without, George and without Embiid and Maxi's had to carry the load. I think they'll play better tonight, having George out there to give him a bunch of points. He's automatic to give you, I would think, 20 or more, even though he hasn't played. But I still think the Suns are the play for me.
And finally, the Clippers are 3.5-point favorites at home against the Spurs with the 214.5.
Honestly, are they ever going to play well in this building? Like they got this $2 billion building, and they look terrible every night. You would think they'd beat the Spurs. I love Wembanyama, but really nothing else. And now their coach is gone. I have to lean Clippers.
Yeah, I'm taking the Spurs. That's my one roadie tonight. I think the Clippers suck. And I'm going to go with maybe a big game from Wembanyama here tonight to maybe get some things done. All right, college rack back tonight. I'm upset. We got to try to squeeze all this in. Let's go. There's one enormous game in college rack tonight to start the season, and there's like 200 games tonight. Baylor goes to Spokane to see Gonzaga tonight. What a way to start the year. -5.5 for the Zags here. 157.5 total. This is an 11:30 East tip in the Pacific Northwest. So get the coffee brewing later, Scotty, for you on the East Coast so you can stay up and watch this.
So is that game? It's it is in Spokane.
At the Kennel. At the Kennel.
They are so good. It's just such a great team they're playing, though. I think he does a great job with Baylor. I think they're going to be in the game. I think it's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to go to the wire. I think Gonzaga can beat them, but I don't know if they can beat them by 6. I really don't. Like, you would think that Baylor would lose in this building, but they are really tough every year. It's just automatic. He coaches them perfectly. They remind me of UConn in a sense. I mean, they're legit always. I mean, they're just a great basketball program, what he's got going down there, Drew.
He certainly does. I'm with you. I'm going to take the sticks with Baylor on the road, even though that's a very tough place to play. It's very risky. Here's the rest of late night. Unfortunately, none of the other heavies have the stones like Gonzaga and Baylor to open up with an enormous game on the first night. The Cooper Flag era starts for Duke against Maine, Texas A&M and UCF, Wright State and Kentucky. Of course, as Kentucky starts a new era, Kansas laying heavy numbers against Howard, Florida at home against USF in that one as well. Florida should be favored there, by the way. 10 or
yeah, all right, yeah, Florida's favored. They should beat South Florida by 11. Kansas is going to roll. I can't wait to see how Pope does at Kentucky. I think that could end up being a good game. That number might be a little fat for them. Kentucky, you think immediately, they're going to be great. They're just always so great, and they're always ranked and everything else. That's a big piece. I don't trust it. Wright State might give them a game. We'll see. I think A&M wins. I actually think Cooper Flag's a freak, and he's going to take them to the Final Four, but I don't know if they're going to treat Maine this badly. I really don't. I think they may give them a break, and not try to rub it in at Cameron Indoor. Do you think they're going to rub it in and beat them by 50? I'll take
Rub it in and beat them by 50. Rub them in and beat them by 50. Let it fly. I've got a couple of other games I'll throw you. Do you know that Flag isn't on the Wooden Award odds list because he's not 18 yet? He doesn't turn 18 until December. We can't bet on Cooper Flag to win the Wooden until December because he's not 18.
That's a big mistake by them because he's going to be an absolute badass. He's a great basketball player. That rule is ridiculous.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was Lincoln! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Tatum has fixed that hitch. He now shoots it at the top of his jump, his release is really pure. And right now he's shooting it at 49% from three. Now, I'm not saying you can shoot at 49% from three for the season. But if he's at 42, 43%, Lord have mercy, look out below. Jason Tatum, right now, my number 6 player in the NBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in the set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long. People.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Are you okay with him moving to the head of the class of the Heisman with those two games? Because he wasn't even in the discussion before those two games.
This is a big opportunity for Dylan if he wants to continue to make his case for the Heisman Trophy, and I think he's shown that. You know, I mean, what is he, a 6th-tier player who's going to probably end up setting most of the passing marks because he's been around for so long? So why not also throw a Heisman Trophy in the mix?
Ferrall Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Rat college basketball games for me?
Yeah, I'll give you 5 more, and like I said, there's like 100 others out there if you're interested. Elon is playing North Carolina tonight, Stony Brook and Marquette, UNC Asheville and Alabama. I'll give Texas and Ohio State credit. They're playing each other as well. That's not bad. And Ryder is out west at UCLA. Big numbers. Big numbers.
Yeah, I mean, UCLA should handle Ryder, you would think. I mean, my God. I think Texas can beat Ohio State. I think North Carolina is going to roll. They're a really good team. They're loaded. I think Marquette handles their business, and I think Alabama will crush Asheville. I really do. Alabama's one of the best teams in the country.
Very good team, Alabama this year, that's for sure. All right, so we're going to have a lot of college rack now since it starts tonight. We'll be doing it. All right, baseball. Lots of off-season stuff moving and shaking. First of all, Garrett Cole will be back with the Yankees. I know the story's been out the last 48 hours, him opting out, Yankees have to do blah, 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 blah. Doesn't matter, Scotty. He's back with the Yankees. They're going to talk about extension down the road. It's basically like if he didn't opt out from the story that I just read. That is the Cole situation, not going anywhere in the Bronx. The Yankees did pick up Luke Weaver's option for next year. $2.5 million. I hope he pitches the same way he did in the playoffs all year next year, because that'll really make the 2.5 go a very long way. They declined the option on Anthony Rizzo. I think you're with me. See you later for Anthony Rizzo. Have fun. It's been nice, but he's shot.
Yeah,
he's washed.
He's old.
Finished. Yankees have a lot of free agents besides Soto, Gleyber Torres, Verdugo, Canely Holmes, and Tim Hill. Cody Bellinger opted in to his Cubs deal. He is staying in Chicago. Will not be a free agent out on the market. But Jock Peterson will. Declines with Arizona. Minaya declines with the Mets. Blake Snell declines his option with the Giants. He opts out. He's a free agent. Robbie Ray's not stupid, though. He had 2 years and $50 million left, and he said, thank you, I'll stay for 2 years and $50 million with the San Francisco Giants. Why not? He wasn't going to get that anywhere else. The Royals extended Michael Wacha, 3 years, $51 million. Brewers declined the option to extend Devin Williams, their closer, beyond this year. He'll be a free agent after 25, and they already said they're going to trade him this offseason. So Devin Williams will be available at the right. Man, Milwaukee just loves pawning these guys off, right? I mean, they just love. People get on the Pirates.
Gave up the home run to Alonso.
He gave up the homer to Alonso. Yeah, he gave up the homer to Alonso in that one. Clayton Kershaw is going to have surgery on his foot, and his knee. It's time.
Speaking of old.
End it. Just please. So there'll be a lot of baseball news over the next few days. Did you see Crosby on Saturday night? They moved him and Malkin together on the same line the last few games. Crosby got 7 points in his 3 games with Malkin, including 2 goals Saturday night against the Habs. Hey, if you're going to suck, you might as well throw the 2 best guys together and try to score as many goals as you can. Right, Scotty?
Hey, I mean, they've been terrible. So put them together and let them have fun. I mean, let's face facts. Malkin, they should have never done that deal. They did, so they got to put him out there. You might as well put him with the best player and let him go to work because they can do serious damage together and win some games. They have massive problems, that team, with their goaltending and everything else. And I did buy tickets to the Sharks game on the 16th.
I knew that you would.
I got some nice ones.
Only 2 games tonight. The Kings are in Nashville against the Predators in hockey. There you see it right there. Preds minus $1.40. And the Devils are road favorites in Edmonton against the Oilers. Of course, no McDavid. He's out, but I saw him skating this morning. He may be back sooner than expected, Connor McDavid.
Yeah, look, the Predators have started winning a little bit. I think they win again, and I think the Oilers will beat the Devils. Draisaitl had a big game last night. They're not afraid of the Devils.
Not afraid. And finally, Sierra Leone wins the Breeders' Cup Classic over the weekend. Congratulations to Sierra.
I watched a lot of the Breeders' Cup.
Did you watch it?
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
I watched on both days. I watched Friday and I watched Saturday, and I watched several of the races. It takes too long. I'll tell you that much. Oh my God, it's like waiting. It's like traffic in LA, waiting for these races to go off, and they just never stop talking about these horses that nobody knows. And the races are great, but waiting for them really sucks. I mean, it's the worst. Honestly.
Awful. There you go. We didn't even have to get to have the Ferrall finish tonight.
We didn't have time to do any, Ferrall finish today. Just no time. But we'll be here tomorrow at 3 on Coast to Coast.
You got Porzingis, you got Holiday, you got Derek White. You got, literally, I would say what? 5 guys can get you 20 points in a game?
I know people will say it's, only one guy. I don't believe that, Coach, that, one guy, those days are over, in my opinion. Like, a Bill Russell, a Wilt Chamberlain.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
You're going a little deep bomb hunting here. We don't care that we have the one heavy favorite with Rory, a couple other guys like Fleetwood and Tagala, etc. You're going to go a little deeper down the board.
This course, I think, is going to play a little bit more to the wedges. They have, what they did is they've renovated it to basically block off some of the bombing alleys for these guys. They've narrowed the fairways.
Ferrall Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Garrett Cole is getting ready to come back, too. I guess look, they've played great without him, but you're not going to say to Garrett Cole, look, don't come back. I mean, it's a ridiculous conversation to have.
They're not going to take any unnecessary chances. And look, they're at the point where they have a lead. They certainly are going to make the playoffs, I would say, barring some sort of complete collapse. And that's all it takes.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with an injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The Early Line. Only on Sports.